Two astronauts originally assigned to a routine 8-day mission aboard the International Space Station, ISS, now face the possibility of being stranded in orbit until early next year. This unforeseen delay stems from growing safety concerns surrounding Boeing's CST-100 Starliner spacecraft. As the situation develops, speculation has grown over whether Elon Musk might release statements or data that could further complicate matters for Boeing, a company already battling a series of reputational issues in both its aerospace and commercial sectors. NASA recently decided to postpone the astronauts' return to Earth due to unresolved technical and safety problems with Spaceflight. In response, the agency is actively evaluating the use of SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft as a backup plan to safely bring the astronauts home. This potential reliance on SpaceX highlights the widening gap between Boeing's troubled program and SpaceX's reliable track record in human spaceflight. It also marks a shift in industry dynamics. The latest issues are part of a recurring pattern that has haunted Boeing's Starliner program since its inception. In contrast to SpaceX's rapid rise as the dominant player in U.S. commercial spaceflight, Boeing has suffered repeated delays, technical failures, and diminishing confidence from both NASA and the public. Elon Musk's pointed remark in August 2024 that aircraft manufacturers won't define the future of space, just as car makers don't rule the skies, was widely seen as a direct jab at Boeing. That statement came shortly after NASA chose not to use Starliner for a key June 2024 docking attempt due to persistent technical problems. What was meant to be a straightforward mission edged toward crisis, with NASA concerned that the astronauts might not have a reliable way back without assistance from SpaceX. Musk noted that if SpaceX hadn't been an option, NASA might have been forced to rely on Russia's space program, an outcome that would have symbolized a major regression in American spaceflight independence. The Starliner program has endured a troubled development cycle spanning over a decade. In 2014, NASA awarded contracts to both Boeing and SpaceX to develop crewed spacecraft for transporting astronauts to the ISS, aiming to reduce reliance on Russian Soyuz missions. Boeing received $4.2 billion in fundings, significantly more than the $2.6 billion allocated to SpaceX's Crew Dragon. Despite this financial advantage, Boeing has yet to complete a fully successful crewed mission, while SpaceX has launched 7 successful human flights since 2020. This performance gap has not gone unnoticed. Boeing's continued setbacks have raised serious doubts about the long-term viability of its program. Starliner was envisioned as a next-generation transport vehicle capable of ferrying up to 7 passengers to and from the ISS. NASA planned to use it for missions carrying for astronauts, with the spacecraft designed to remain docked at the ISS for up to 7 months. The design included a reusable crew capsule and a disposable service module. However, despite these ambitious plans, the spacecraft has been hampered by technical issues from the beginning. From software bugs and faulty parachutes to corroded valves and helium leaks. Originally scheduled for launch readiness in 2017, Starliner's timeline has been repeatedly delayed. One of its earliest and most public failures occurred during a December 2019 test flight. After launching aboard an Atlas V rocket, Starliner experienced a critical malfunction just 15 minutes into the mission. A timing error in the onboard computer caused the spacecraft to misinterpret its position in the mission sequence. This triggered a cascade of incorrect maneuvers and prematurely burned fuel, compromising the mission. A subsequent NASA-Boeing investigation uncovered more than 80 corrective actions that had to be taken before the spacecraft could fly again. While Boeing worked to address those issues, SpaceX surged ahead. It completed successful crewed tests and quickly became NASA's preferred human spaceflight partner. On 2021, further complications arose when corrosion was discovered in over 1,000 valves in Starliner's propulsion system. This led to yet another delay. A 2022 uncrewed test flight appeared to signal a turnaround. Starliner successfully docked with the ISS, prompting NASA to schedule its first crewed mission with astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams, both seasoned space veterans. Wilmore, a former Navy combat pilot, had flown aboard the Space Shuttle and spent 6 months on the ISS. Williams, a pioneering astronaut in her own right, had flown to missions and was the first woman to test a new spacecraft. Their experience and professionalism made them ideal for validating Boeing's long-delayed crewed capability. However, even this mission ran into complications. In 2023, Boeing discovered issues with Starliner's parachute system and had to conduct additional drop tests. Engineers also found nearly a mile of flammable tape inside the spacecraft, which had to be removed and replaced by early 2024. It seemed Boeing had finally resolved the major engineering hurdles, and expectations grew for a successful crewed launch. On June 5, 2024, the long-awaited mission finally launched. Starliner, atop an Atlas V rocket, lifted off from Cape Canaveral carrying Wilmore and Williams toward the International Space Station. The spacecraft successfully reached orbit and docked with the ISS the following day. At first, the mission appeared to be on track, but within days, Boeing and NASA discovered new problems. Engineers identified multiple helium leaks in the spacecraft's propulsion system. Starliner uses helium to pressurize its fuel tanks, and these leaks threatened to compromise maneuverability. More troubling were issues with several of the spacecraft's 28 thrusters. These small engines are vital for precise adjustments in orbit and for deorbiting maneuvers needed during re-entry. At least 5 thrusters underperformed or failed to fire properly. NASA and Boeing quickly concluded that it would be unsafe to attempt a return flight until a complete investigation was conducted. Starliner's planned 8-day mission was extended indefinitely as engineers scrambled to assess the situation remotely. The astronauts remained safe aboard the ISS, but as weeks passed, concerns mounted. With no clear timeline for a resolution, NASA began quietly exploring contingencies, including using SpaceX's Crew Dragon to retrieve the stranded crew. That move would be historic and deeply symbolic. It would represent the first time NASA had to call on one private company to rescue astronauts from a failed spacecraft developed by another. Behind the scenes, SpaceX engineers began preparing for a potential recovery operation. NASA was careful not to fan media speculation, but the public soon took notice. Headlines blared about America's astronauts stuck in space, and Boeing once again found itself the target of scrutiny. The company's stock dipped as analysts questioned its ability to compete in the space sector. At the same time, Elon Musk took to social media with thinly veiled criticisms of Boeing's engineering choices, reigniting a rivalry that had been brewing for years. Some of Musk's comments suggested that SpaceX had anticipated these failures years earlier, which is why it had designed Crew Dragon with greater modular redundancy and fault tolerance. While some dismissed Musk's remarks as opportunistic, others noted that Crew Dragon had already proven its reliability in real-world emergencies. As abort tests and splashdowns with multiple backup systems, NASA has maintained public neutrality, emphasizing its commitment to both partners. However, internal documents leaked to the press showed that agency officials were more confident in SpaceX's performance metrics and post-mission data than Boeing's. For now, Wilmore and Williams remain on the ISS, conducting science experiments and maintenance tasks while awaiting news from Mission Control. Boeing continues to run ground simulations to test different return scenarios, hoping to resolve the thruster and helium problems. The latest projections suggest they may not return before late 2024 or early 2025. As a backup, SpaceX's Crew Dragon capsule Endurance, currently docked at the ISS from a previous mission, could be reconfigured to bring them back. Alternatively, a new Crew Dragon could be launched specifically for the retrieval. NASA insists it is committed to maintaining redundancy in its human spaceflight program and does not plan to abandon Boeing's efforts entirely. Still, the contrast between the two companies couldn't be more stark. Boeing, once the face of American aerospace excellence, is now struggling to keep pace with SpaceX, a company founded 2 decades ago by a tech entrepreneur with no traditional aerospace background. This shift mirrors broader changes in the space industry, where innovation and iteration have outpaced legacy systems and bureaucratic inertia. It also raises questions about the role of government contracts, competition, and accountability. For Boeing, the path forward is uncertain. Engineers must not only fix Starliner's current problems but also convince NASA and the public that the spacecraft is safe for future missions. For SpaceX, the situation represents both a validation of its approach and an opportunity to solidify its leadership role in space exploration. This shift mirrors a much broader transformation unfolding within the global space industry, one that pits the agility of innovation against the rigidity of legacy systems. The pace at which modern private aerospace companies like SpaceX iterate, test, and deploy new technologies is redefining how space missions are planned and executed. Traditionally, large contractors such as Boeing operated within government frameworks that favored lengthy development cycles, massive budgets, and rigid protocols. While this approach once ensured stability and safety, it has increasingly fallen behind in a new era marked by rapid prototyping, modular engineering, and cost-efficiency. At the heart of this shift lies a fundamental question: who should lead humanity's future in space? Established aerospace giants that shaped the space age, or nimble, tech-driven newcomers pushing the boundaries of what's possible? The growing divide between Boeing and SpaceX exemplifies this tension. Boeing, a cornerstone of American aviation and space history, is now struggling to meet modern expectations. In contrast, SpaceX has embraced a fail-fast philosophy, accepting and learning from early-stage failures in order to accelerate long-term success. These changes also cast a spotlight on the evolving role of government contracts. NASA's Commercial Crew program was designed to foster competition, encouraging both Boeing and SpaceX to develop independent, human-rated spacecraft. Yet despite receiving more funding, Boeing has consistently lagged behind its rival. This raises important questions about how taxpayer dollars are allocated, how performance is measured, and how accountability is enforced when public safety and national prestige are on the line. For Boeing, the road ahead is filled with obstacles. Beyond solving Starliner's immediate technical problems such as helium leaks, malfunctioning thrusters, and software inconsistencies, the company must work hard to restore trust. NASA officials, policymakers, and the public all need to be reassured that Starliner is not just functional, but reliably safe for future crewed missions. The company's legacy is on the line, and its relevance in the next chapter of space exploration is far from guaranteed. For SpaceX, meanwhile, this is more than just a competitive victory, it's a powerful validation of its engineering philosophy and corporate vision. The current situation gives Elon Musk's company a unique opportunity to reinforce its dominance in human spaceflight, expand its influence within NASA, and further shape the future of how humanity ventures into the cosmos. And for NASA, it's a reminder of the high stakes involved in spaceflight and the importance of ensuring that every system, every engine, and every bolt meets the unforgiving standards of the final frontier. As the astronauts orbit 250 miles above Earth, their safe return is still in limbo. Their mission, once a symbol of Boeing's comeback, has become a test of the aerospace giant's survival in a rapidly changing space era. And whether by Boeing Starliner or SpaceX's Crew Dragon, one thing remains clear: bringing them home safely is now a matter of national and